The good news is American communists are soft. You see, the communists of old, as much as I hate them, Stalin, Mao, they really were tough guys. Stalin spent his youth shooting people and robbing banks. Mao, did you know he taught some of our troops jungle warfare in China prior to World War II? Mao's a jungle fighter, a tough guy. Our communists are not. They know how to talk like one. They're not that tough, though. Do you see this dirty little commie in Bakersfield, California, threatening the city council?
Hi there, my name is Riddhi Patel. I'm here to speak in support of the City Council introducing a ceasefire resolution, specifically the one United Liberation Front has drafted. I don't have faith that you'll do this. You guys are all horrible human beings, and Jesus probably would have killed you himself. And while you guys parade Gandhi around as a Hindu holiday called Chaitra Navratri, it starts off this week, I remind you that these holidays that we practice, that other people in the global south practice, believe in violent revolution against their oppressors. And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. Regardless of whether you elect people into office, they'll backstab you, they'll let you die, and for that reason, you guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors, we'll see you at your house, we'll murder you.
That's against the law. You know, she knows how to talk like Mao, but apparently she didn't know that there come with consequences, you see. This was her, just like 24 hours later, after the police tracked her down, threw her in handcuffs, and informed her that she was facing multiple felony charges. You see, the American communist was not raised in the jungles of China or the Siberian hinterlands of Russia. The American communist was born, bred, and nurtured in America's university system, and therefore the American communist is soft. If we would just nudge him, he would fall right over. And places like Florida, you try to block traffic, you get nudged. That's weird. Law enforcement getting these rabid street communists out of the way. What conditions would allow police to do such things? Joining me now, my friend Julio Rosas. Join his Substack, is called Mostly Peaceful. Okay, Julio, who were those cops and where did they get this dangerous authority to get people out of the road?
Yeah, it's a kind of an unusual sightseeing these days. So that was in Miami, in the great state of Florida. And obviously, with the way that law enforcement is able to actually do their jobs, it's no surprising that they were the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine protesters were quickly removed from the streets. I was in New York City yesterday covering this widespread mobilization that was advertised for weeks, trying to disrupt the economy on tax day, so that our tax dollars don't go to help fund, Israel and all that. So, as good as what happened in Florida was, it was a rarity because in New York, traffic was congested from Manhattan to Brooklyn. We saw O'Hare Airport in Chicago that was blocked off for for a little bit of time because of these protesters. The Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, and that was just the main roadways. There was other kind of these small unit actions that were being taken all across the country, again, with this aim of trying to disrupt the economy.
Okay, Julio, I want to nail down on this aspect of what we saw yesterday, because you just brought it up, New York, O'Hare, Golden Gate Bridge, whatnot. The organization, because it hit me yesterday as I watched how widespread this was. This is not random. People didn't wake up and organize on Facebook that day and run down to New York City's City Hall. Who organized this? Why? Who funded it? Who were the groups behind this? Where did this come from?
So there's a website called a15.org, and that was kind of this umbrella type organization. They encourage basically the local groups in any of the cities to take autonomous action to try to have this economic blockade. And so the people behind A15.org is actually a little bit shrouded in mystery. There's no names behind it. There's no about us section listing out who's in charge of that. And so they really just hammered in the point that they wanted all these groups that in New York City, it was within our lifetime. There's all these different. There was this thing called the Dissenters in Chicago. Those were the kind of the people that were kind of behind the O'Hare action. It was just kind of what we've been seeing the past couple of years, where this kind of loose coalition within the far left that their tactics might be a little bit different. They might have not agree entirely on a specific issue, although I would say that they're pretty unanimous on how they view Israel and the war in Gaza, just to try to make things as painful as possible for the average American in order to because people have been asking, well, why are they doing this? They're going to make people angry. And I've been saying since day one, since October 8th, is that these people aren't trying to convince you. They're just trying to make your life as miserable as possible so that you just give in to their demands.
Julio, you mentioned these people in the Gaza, Israel, Palestine thing. Are these people all Muslim activists? Is this a religious thing for them? Are they just far left dirtball commies? I'm asking because are these the same faces you've encountered at these random protests for as long as you've been covering them? You were at all the BLM, Antifa stuff with the street animals out there. Are these the same animals?
Depending on location, but generally, yes. I mean, Dearborn, Michigan, obviously, with the large Muslim population over there, that is going to be mostly a religious aspect to it. But here or over there in New York City and Chicago, it's basically kind of the same thing because it's kind of the same groups that were involved with kind of allying with BLM back in 2020. And so that's why it kind of had to take a different big event like October 7th to kind of galvanize and get them motivated to willing to get back out into the streets again. And New York City has been hit particularly hard by the far left since October 7th. I mean, they have disruptive events basically every week, at least once a week. It's actually very rare for them to not have something of some kind. And so that's why when there was this kind of call to action to disrupt, that's why they went around Wall Street, right? To just try to figure out a way of how to, not, and look, obviously I'm not a fan of paying taxes either, but obviously they're taking it to a little bit of an extreme. And so, it's kind of the same actors, kind of the same rhetoric. Basically, even though obviously their main target is Israel, they also hate the United States. They hate cops. They're always getting into fights with them. They're always trying to antagonize people that happen to be that don't follow their ideology. So we'll see how this plays out as the election heats up, and we can expect that the DNC in Chicago later this summer is going to be pretty eventful.
Julio, speaking of the cops, wrapping this up here, when people are on the outside looking in, when I'm not in San Francisco, I'm not in New York City, they look and many people ask the same question: why aren't the cops doing anything? When you're blocking off the Golden Gate Bridge, why are the cops not throwing everyone in the back of a paddy wagon? When you're storming City Hall, why is everybody not getting a face full of pepper spray and some handcuffs? What holds the cops back in these places?
It's because of 2020. One of the things back then was defunding the police, and while that was successful initially, a lot of money has been poured back into these police departments. But the issue now is just that they're undermanned and they're handcuffed by these policies being put forth by these far left radicals in whatever government, whether it's city or state. And so you would think, yes, if you're going to endanger people and basically hold them hostage for hours on end on a bridge, but the cops aren't going to necessarily kind of have the authority anymore to take care of these people pretty quickly. I think it was like something like 5 hours, or at least it was a couple of hours, and then of course there's Seattle too. So it's very unfortunate, and this is kind of the continuing effects of the mass lawlessness that we saw in 2020. So even though the police departments haven't been defunded, the far left was pretty successful in hamstringing police departments across the country, as we're seeing now.